Hello there, my sleepy nights. And tonight, we step into the world of Hyrule. And if you enjoy this special collection of stories, please remember to give us a like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Doing so helps others find the channel and become sleepy nights. You can also support us on our Patreon, where you get access to our Spotify playlist and early access to all of these stories. But for now, let's get cozy and step into the magical world of Hyrule. The courier's urgent pounding at his door roused Link from a fitful sleep. Bleary-eyed, he unrolled the royal decree, its golden seal glinting in the pale dawn light. Another crisis, another call to arms. Despite years of hard-won peace, it seemed Hyrule could never truly rest easy. As Link rode towards the castle, the once verdant fields of Hyrule stretched out before him, now eerily still. No birdsong greeted the morning. No farmers tended their crops. An unnatural hush had fallen over the land, as if the very air held its breath in anticipation of some looming calamity. The castle's imposing silhouette grew on the horizon, its proud pennants hanging limp in the stagnant air. Link's unease deepened as he passed through the gates unchallenged. Where were the guards, the bustling servants, the usual pageantry that accompanied a royal summons was conspicuously absent? Princess Zelda, Link called out, his voice echoing through empty corridors. Each step on the polished marble floors resounded like a thunderclap in the unsettling silence. Room after room stood abandoned, a half-eaten meal here, a dropped quill there, as if the entire castle's population had simply vanished mid-breath. In the throne room, Link's heart sank. The ornate chair stood empty. No trace of the princess to be found. But there, pinned to the throne by a delicate dagger, fluttered a scrap of parchment. Link recognized Zelda's flowing script immediately. Beware the hero's shadow. As Link's fingers brushed the cryptic message, a searing pain lanced through his skull. The world tilted and blurred around him, and suddenly, he was somewhere else entirely. Someplace he'd never been, yet he knew intimately. A vast desert stretched before him, a colossal stone colossus looming overhead. He felt the burning ache in his arms as he raised a massive hammer, felt the impact shudder through his bones as he struck a gleaming mirror. The vision vanished as quickly as it had come, leaving Link gasping and disorientated. He steadied himself against the throne, his mind reeling. What had just happened? What was that place? When had he wielded such a weapon? And why did it feel so achingly familiar, yet utterly foreign at the same time? One thing was certain. Something was very wrong in Hyrule. The princess was missing. The people had vanished, and Link's own memories seemed to be fracturing before his eyes. Whatever darkness threatened the land this time, it struck the very heart of what it meant to be the legendary hero. Link's footsteps echoed through the castle's empty halls as he searched for any clue to Zelda's whereabouts. The air grew thick and hazy, shimmering like heat waves rising from sun-baked stone. He blinked, trying to clear his vision, only to find himself suddenly standing in the castle's long abandoned library. Dust motes danced in shafts of ethereal light streaming through stained glass windows. Among towering shelves of ancient books stood a figure Link could have sworn wasn't there a moment ago. A hunched old man, his long white beard nearly touching the floor, eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light beneath bushy brows. "At last, you've come," the old sage's voice creaked like ancient parchment. "Though I suspect you don't truly know why, do you? Hero of time. Or should I say, heroes?" Link's hand instinctively went to the Master Sword's hilt. The old man chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rustling. "Always so quick to action in every life, aren't you? But this time, young hero, the battle lies within. He gestured to a gnarled staff, and suddenly the library walls melted away. Link found himself surrounded by swirling mists, within which he caught glimpses of himself. A young boy in green, wide-eyed and clutching a fairy ocarina, a fierce warrior with a wolf's pelt draped over chainmail, a sailor with wind-tousled hair standing proud on a red boat's prow. What is this? Link thought, his head spinning as more and more versions of himself flickered through the mist. This is the truth you've always known, yet never understood, the sage intoned. You are not one hero, Link. You are many. A fractured consciousness spread across the vast array of time. Each life, each legend, a thread in the grand weave of Hyrule's history. Link staggered, overwhelmed by the images, by memories of lives he'd never lived, yet somehow knew intimately. The hero's spirit is eternal, the sage explained, his voice resonating with the weight of ages. Reborn whenever Hyrule faces its darkest hours. But now, something has disrupted this balance. The threads of your existence are unraveling, hero. And as they fray, so too does the very fabric of our world. The misty visions faded, leaving Link and the old sage once again in the dusty library. Link's mind reeled. The disappearances, he thought. Zelda. It's all connected to this. The sage nodded, as if hearing his very thoughts. A shadow grows, hero. A darkness born from your own fractured self. Find the missing pieces of your soul scattered across time and space. Only then can you hope to face what comes next. With a sound like a thunderclap, the old man vanished, leaving Link alone with the enormity of his task. The hero, heroes of legend, had faced countless challenges before, but never one quite like this. As the echoes of the sage's revelation still rang in his ears, the world around Link began to warp and twist. The library's walls shimmered and buckled, the air growing colder as a sharp wind whipped through the space. Reality fractured like a shattered mirror, the pieces spinning and reforming in a dizzying blur of light and shadow. When the disorientating shift finally subsided, Link found himself standing at the edge of a realm he barely recognized. Before him stretched a shattered version of Hyrule, a patchwork of colliding timelines and impossible geography. The sky above was torn between day and night. One side bathed in eternal dusk, the other lit by a blazing noon sun. Death Mountain's peak floated in a twilight sky, while a lake's waters crashed against the sands of a sprawling desert. In the distance, the clock tower of an unknown yet hauntingly familiar town chimed with a discordant melody, its sound reverberating through the fractured land. A crackling voice emanated from the Sheikah slate, a mystical tablet-like device at Link's hip. He activated the device to see Zelda's image, distorted and flickering. Link, her voice crackled. An ancient evil is stealing fragments of your past selves. Each piece it takes weakens the very fabric of Hyrule's history. The more it steals, the closer Hyrule comes to collapsing entirely. You must traverse this fractured realm, reclaim your lost memories and powers. There isn't much time. Steeling himself, Link took his first steps into the chaotic landscape. The boundaries of time and space twisted and overlapped. Each step felt heavy, as if the very air resisted his movement. But he pressed on, driven by an unshakable sense of duty. As he ventured deeper, the world around him began to change, warping into familiar yet distant places. In a mist-shrouded forest, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient trees, Link saw a flicker of movement ahead. Emerging from the fog was a young boy, his eyes wide with determination, a fierce deity's mask clutched in his small hands. The boy looked up, meeting Link's gaze. "Who are you?" the boy asked, his voice steady despite his youth. Link knelt, lowering his weapon in a gesture of peace. "I am you, from a time yet to come. We share the same spirit, the same destiny." The boy tilted his head, eyes narrowing slightly. "Then why do you look so lost?" The question struck Link harder than any blow. He had no answer, only the gnawing uncertainty that had plagued him since this journey began. But before he could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. Shadows began to writhe at the edges of the clearing, closing in. "There's no time," the boy shouted, his voice laced with urgency. He placed the fierce deity's mask over his face, and in an instant his form grew, transforming into a towering figure of raw power. "Fight with me, and together we'll push back this darkness." Side by side they fought, each strike and parry in perfect sync, as if they had practiced together for years. Link could feel the boy's fierce determination fueling his own, restoring a part of himself that had been lost. With every enemy defeated, fragments of Link's fractured psyche began to knit together, memories and skills long forgotten returning to him. But not all the encounters were so empowering. As Link continued his journey, the landscape shifted once more, leading him to the windswept heights of a crumbling tower. Here, he found a hardened warrior draped in a wolf's pelt, his eyes sharp and wary. The warrior spoke first, his voice low and gravelly, tinged with the weariness of countless battles. "So, you've come at last. I've been waiting for you." Link nodded, sensing a kinship between them that transcended words. "Then you know why I'm here." The warrior smirked, drawing his sword. "I do. But words won't get us where we need to go." Without warning, the warrior lunged, their blades clashing in a flurry of sparks. This wasn't a battle of enemies, but a test. A way for the warrior to impart his knowledge to Link. Each clash of swords was a lesson, each parry a shared memory. As they fought, the wind howled around them, carrying away the doubts that had plagued Link. At the end of their duel, the warrior sheathed his sword, his expression softening. "You're ready," he said, a note of pride in his voice. "Remember, the path ahead is yours alone. I can't follow where you're going." Link felt a pang of loss as the warrior faded into the swirling winds. But the strength he had gained from the encounter remained, a part of him now, whole once more. As Link ventured deeper into the heart of the twisted landscape, he found himself standing before a version of Hyrule Castle that was eerily familiar, yet utterly wrong. The walls were cracked, the air thick with a malevolent energy that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Finally, he stood before a time-twisted temple of time, its spire corkscrewing impossibly into the fragmented sky. The master sword hummed at his back, resonating with the fractured time stream swirling around him. Whatever came next, Link knew this could be the greatest battle, not just against this shadowy evil, but against the very nature of his own legendary existence. As if in response to his thoughts, the fragmented landscape before him began to shift once more. The twisted spire of the Temple of Time stretched impossibly, its form warping until it resembled a dark mirror. Link's reflection stared back at him, but something was wrong. The image rippled and distorted, showing not just one Link, but countless versions, each wearing a different face of the hero. The dark mirror seemed to pulse with an ominous energy, as if daring him to confront the truth hidden within. Drawn by an unseen force, Link reached out to touch the mirror's surface. The moment his fingers made contact, he felt a violent pull. The world around him shattered like glass, and he found himself falling through a void of swirling memories and fractured realities. When the dizzying sensation subsided, Link stood in a liminal space, surrounded by floating fragments of his past lives. A dark figure materialized before him, its form shifting between various shadowy versions of Link himself. At last, we meet face to face. The figure spoke. Its voice, a chilling echo of Link's own. Do you not recognize me, hero? I am every doubt you've buried, every fear you've ignored, every dark thought you've pushed aside across many lives. A chill ran down Link's spine as the shadow's words struck a chord deep within him, stirring memories of battles lost and futures destroyed. Memories that should not have been his, yet felt unmistakably real. His hand instinctively went to the Master Sword's hilt, but he hesitated. You're me? A bitter laugh erupted from the shadow. In a sense, I am you. I am you from a timeline where we failed, where Ganon won, where Zelda died, where Hyrule fell into ruin. The figure solidified into a Link wearing tattered, blackened hero's garbs. His eyes filled with malevolence. That's impossible, Link said. But even as the words left his mouth, visions of devastation, the crushing weight of failure, flooded his mind. Memories that felt as real as any he had lived. The shadow Link sneered. Is it? How many times have we been reborn, forced to bear the weight of countless worlds on our shoulders? I'm simply finishing what fate started, erasing the hero from existence, sparing countless versions of us from this eternal, crushing destiny. Before Link could respond, he felt himself pulled into a mind-bending battle. Reality shifted around them, colors bleeding into each other as time twisted in on itself. The world morphing from one battlefield to another in the blink of an eye. One moment, they clashed atop Hyrule Castle. The next, they grappled in the depths of the Great Sea. With each shift, Link felt his grip on his own identity slipping. You can't win, the Shadow Link taunted as they fought across fractured realities. Every strike against me is a strike against yourself. And as the battle raged on, Link began to realize the truth in those words. The more he fought against this dark reflection of himself, the more he felt his own strength waning. This wasn't a battle he could win with sword and shield alone. In a moment of clarity between realities, Link lowered his weapon. "You're right," he said, causing the Shadow Link to pause in surprise. "I can't defeat you, but you're a part of me, part I've been running from for too long." The Shadow Link's form flickered, uncertainty crossing his face. "What are you playing at?" "No games," Link replied, taking a step forward. "Just acceptance. Acceptance of my failures. Acceptance of my fears. And acceptance of my doubts. They're as much a part of me as my courage and determination." As Link spoke these words, he felt a shift within himself. The boundaries between hero and shadow began to blur, timelines converging instead of fracturing. "What's happening?" the Shadow Link demanded, his form becoming less distinct. "I think we're becoming whole again," Link said. "Every victory, every defeat, every life we've lived, this cycle doesn't need to end in erasure. It ends with acceptance, by embracing all that we are and all that we have been." As their hands met, a blinding light engulfed them both. A rush of emotions flooded Link's heart. Pain, sorrow, triumph, and hope, all blending together in a profound sense of wholeness he had never felt before. The fractured realms of Hyrule trembled, timelines realigning and merging. When the light faded, Link stood alone. The Master Sword pulsed in his hand, the blade shimmering with an iridescent energy he'd never seen before. Link felt the currents of history flowing through him, each strand of time now clear and tangible. The sheer volume of memories, experiences, and knowledge threatened to drown him. But he steadied himself. Focus, he thought, closing his eyes and centering himself. And as he did so, the chaotic stream of information began to coalesce into something manageable, something he could navigate. When Link opened his eyes again, he found himself standing in a void-like space, surrounded by shimmering portals to different eras of Hyrule's history. Each one called to him, showing glimpses of crucial moments where the fate of the land hung in the balance. So this is what it means to be the hero of time, Link thought with a wry smile. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. Let's get to work. With newfound purpose, Link stepped through the first portal. He emerged in the ancient sky realm, witnessing his younger self preparing to face demise for the first time. The weight of that impending battle, the curse that would echo through time. Link felt it all acutely. As his past self raised the Master Sword, ready to strike down Girahim, Link intervened. "Wait," he called out, his voice carrying authority that made even Girahim pause. The younger Link turned, confusion evident on his face. "Who are you?" "Someone who knows what happens next," Link replied, and turned to Girahim. "Your master's defeat doesn't have to be the end. There's another path." What followed was a tense negotiation. Link drew on all the diplomatic skills he'd gained across many lives, speaking of balance, the cyclical nature of light and dark, and a future where Demise's power could be channeled for creation rather than destruction. Girahim's eyes narrowed, but something, a glimmer of hope perhaps, flickered in their depths. Link smiled, holding out his hand. Girahim hesitated, and tentatively took Link's hand. As their fingers clasped, Link felt the timelines shift. The curse of demise, while not entirely prevented, was fundamentally altered. Its power would still echo through time, but as a force of balance rather than pure malevolence. Exhilarated by this first success, Link moved on to the next crucial moment. He found himself in the timeline of the fallen hero Standing amidst the ruins of a Hyrule conquered by Ganon, the air was thick with despair, the land withered and dying. In a crumbling temple, Link found his counterpart from this timeline, a broken man, crushed by the weight of his failure. The fallen hero looked up as Link approached, his eyes dull and lifeless. "Come to finish me off?" the fallen hero asked, his voice hoarse, edged with bitterness. Link knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "No, I've come to help you stand again." Over the next few hours, Link shared with his fallen self the wisdom he'd gained, understanding that failure was not the end, just a part of the journey. He spoke of the courage it takes to rise again, to face one's fears and doubts, to fight on even when hope seems lost. "But it's too late," the fallen hero protested. "Hyrule is lost." Link shook his head. "Hyrule lives as long as we do. As long as there's even one person willing to fight for it." Slowly, hope rekindled in the fallen hero's eyes. Together, they formulated a plan to rally the survivors, to build a resistance against Ganon's reign. As they worked, Link felt another shift in the timelines. The darkest of futures was not erased, but its course was altered, infused with a resilience that would echo through generations. As Link continued his journey through time, making subtle, crucial changes, he began to notice something. With each alteration, each mended timeline, he felt his unified self beginning to unravel. The power that allowed him to traverse time and hold the memories of all his lives was fading. In a quiet moment between realities, a calm stillness descended, and Zelda's ethereal form appeared before him. Her eyes shimmered with pride and a touch of sorrow. "You've accomplished more than anyone could have asked," she whispered, her voice tinged with a bitter-sweet melody. "But you know, Link, the price of this journey, the final cost." Link nodded, a bitter-sweet smile on his face. "To truly save Hyrule, to restore the natural flow of time, I can't remain as I am." Zelda reached out, her hand passing through his cheek like mist. "The cycle of the hero must continue, but it cannot exist with you in this state. a being of all timelines and none. I know, Link said, his voice steadying despite the weight of his decision. But the wisdom I've gained, the understanding of our shared destiny, it won't be lost. It will echo through every incarnation to come. Zelda's form began to fade, but her voice lingered. Then finish what you've started, hero of heroes. Reforge the legacy that will guide Hyrule through the ages. With renewed determination, Link pressed on. He visited the era of the Great Sea, ensuring that the King of Hyrule made different choices. One that would preserve more of the ancient kingdom's legacy. In twilight-covered Hyrule, he whispered words of encouragement to his wolf-formed self, planting seeds of understanding about the balance of light and shadow. Each intervention was subtle, each change seemingly small, but Link could feel them rippling through time. A cycle of hero, princess, and calamity remained, but it was tempered now with greater wisdom, a deeper understanding of the delicate balance that governed Hyrule's destiny. And as he neared the end of his journey, Link found himself growing weaker. The unified consciousness that had allowed him to bridge all timelines was beginning to fragment. He knew he had one last task to perform. Link closed his eyes, reaching out with his mind to touch every strand of time simultaneously. He felt the entirety of Hyrule's history thrumming through him. Every triumph, every defeat, every quiet moment of courage and despair. It's time, he thought to himself. With a deep breath, Link began to disperse his consciousness, sending fragments of his being flowing into different points of Hyrule's timeline. As he faded, Link caught glimpses of the future he was creating. A young boy in a forest, stirring from a prophetic dream. A humble goat herder in a village, unaware of the destiny that awaited him. A novice knight in a newly awakened Hyrule, ready to face the challenges ahead. In each of these futures, Link sensed the echo of the wisdom he'd gained. The heroes to come would face their trials with a deeper understanding, an innate knowledge of the balance between light and shadow, triumph and failure. In his final moments of unified awareness, Link smiled. Though he would no longer exist as a single entity, the essence of his journey, the acceptance of both light and shadow, would live on in every hero to come. The last thing Link saw before his consciousness fully dispersed was a vision of Hyrule restored, timelines flowing as they should, a cycle of hero, princess, and prophecy continuing, but with a newfound resilience born from the wisdom of countless lives lived. As the golden light of the Triforce enveloped the land, the legend of the hero was reborn, forever changed, yet eternally familiar. Somewhere, in the depths of time, the spirit of the hero stirred once more, ready to answer the call of destiny. In the highest tower of Hyrule Castle, Princess Zelda awoke with a start. The morning sun streamed through her window, casting a warm glow on the ancient tapestries adorning her chamber walls. For a moment, she sat still, her mind grasping at the wisps of a dream that felt more like a memory. "Link," she whispered, the name carrying a weight she couldn't quite understand. Flashes of fractured timelines and a hero's profound sacrifice danced at the edges of her consciousness. But, try as she might, she couldn't bring them into focus. Rising from her bed, Zelda moved to the window, gazing out over the land of Hyrule. At first glance, everything seemed as it always had been. Sprawling fields of Hyrule, the distant peak of Death Mountain, the glittering waters of Lake Hylia. Yet, as she looked closer, she noticed subtle changes that gave her pause. The old tree in the castle courtyard, which had been withering for as long as she could remember, now stood tall and vibrant, its branches heavy with fruit. In the distance, she could make out the silhouettes of structures that hadn't been there before. Ancient ruins, restored to their former glory, as if time itself had been rewound. As Zelda descended the tower to begin her daily duties, she found herself hyper-aware of these small but significant changes. The castle guards stood a little straighter, their eyes carrying a glimmer of an unspoken understanding. The scholars in the library pored over texts that seemed both ancient and new. filled with histories that felt simultaneously familiar and foreign. Drawn by an inexplicable sense of urgency, Zelda found herself heading to the Temple of Time, its spire gleaming in the morning light. As she entered the sacred space, a sense of déjà vu washed over her, stronger than ever before. She approached the pedestal where the Master's sword once rested, her fingers tracing the ancient inscriptions. "It's all connected," she murmured. Every thread, every timeline, woven together. Meanwhile, in a small village on the outskirts of Hyrule, a young boy named Link awoke to the sound of his uncle calling him for breakfast. As he rubbed the sleep from his eyes, he tried to hold onto the fragments of an incredible dream. A dream of adventures across time and space, of battles won and lost, of a greater destiny than he could ever imagine. But like mist in the morning sun, the details of the dream faded, leaving behind only a vague sense of purpose and an inexplicable urge to explore the world beyond his small village. As Link sat down to breakfast, his uncle eyed him curiously. "Did you sleep well?" Link nodded slowly. "I had a strange dream," he said. His voice was thoughtful as he reached out for a piece of bread. The details were already slipping away. The sense of purpose remained. Quiet certainty that today was the beginning of something more. His uncle chuckled. "Well, don't let your dreams keep you from your chores. The goats need tending, and I heard of some trouble in the woods to the east. Best stay clear of there." But even as his uncle spoke, Link's eyes were drawn to an old shield hanging on the wall. It seemed to call to him, promising adventures yet to come. As the day progressed, Link found himself moving with a confidence he'd never felt before. His hands naturally falling into the rhythm of swordplay as he swung his wooden practice blade. And so, as the sun began to set on this new Hyrule, a land subtly reshaped by the echoes of a hero's journey across time, young Link stood at the edge of his village, gazing out the vast world before him. He couldn't have known of the profound journey his other selves had undertaken, of the sacrifices made and the wisdom gained. Yet, deep within him, the spirit of the hero stirred, ready once more to answer the call of destiny. The last rays of the autumn sun painted Hyrule's castle's ivory towers in shades of amber and gold, its pennants dancing lazily in the evening breeze. In the castle's highest tower, Princess Zelda stood at her window, watching as merchants from the far reaches of her realm made their way through the castle's town's winding streets. Gorons from Death Mountain, Zora traders from the eastern waters, and Rito craftsmen from the snow-capped peaks. Their presence marked a hard-won victory, the first fruits of her tireless efforts to heal the wounds left by generations of strife. Yet, even as peace blossomed across her kingdom, like the silent princess flowers that now grew wild in the castle courtyards, something stirred in the spaces between shadows. Each night, as twilight gave way to darkness, a peculiar silver radiance limned the clouds, casting ethereal patterns across the land. Not the familiar glow of moonlight, but something more deliberate, almost watchful. In the taverns of Castletown, whispered conversations grew more frequent. Did you see it? A merchant would murmur over his mug of ale. Out by the Aplean forest, shapes moving in the silver light, like memories given form. Others would nod, adding their own tales. Phantom music drifting through the lost woods. Ancient stones humming with forgotten songs. Children speaking of friendly spirits that danced in their gardens under the strange new stars. The castle guards dismissed such talk as fancy, but the old ones knew better. In the Kakariko village, the eldest of the Sheikah gathered their young, teaching them long-forgotten signs of warding. In Hateno, farmers drew ancient symbols above their doors, just as their grandparents had taught them. And in the remote highlands, the dragon Nadra coiled more tightly around her mountain peak. Her scales reflecting the unusual light with an iridescence that spoke of ages yet to come. For now, though, the kingdom basked in its season of peace, even as the silver glow in the sky grew stronger with each passing evening. Waiting. Dawn found Link already at work in the village of Woodland's Edge, his blade catching the morning light as he demonstrated proper sword technique to the miller's son. The boy's practice sword, little more than shaped oak, wobbled in unpracticed hands. But Link's patient guidance drew forth improvement with each passing hour. Though villagers still whispered tales of his past deeds, Link preferred the simple rhythms of village life. Training young warriors, helping old Abe mend his fences, or carrying Martha's heavy water pails from the well. As afternoon mellowed into the evening, he sparred with his own shadows in the village training yard, his movements fluid as spring water. The master sword hung in its place of honor above his hearth, a reminder of darker days, while he trained with a simple soldier's blade, its familiar weight a comfort in his hands. That night, sleep proved elusive. Link walked the boundaries of the lost woods, where ancient trees stood sentinel against the star-strewn sky. A melody drifted through the darkness. Not the playful songs of the Koroks that usually echoed through these woods, but something older. It spoke of starlight and shadow, of powers that slumbered beneath sacred stones. As he followed the ethereal tune, a silver radiance flickered between the trees ahead, like moonlight given form. For a moment, it almost seemed to beckon. Then, swift as a forest deer, it vanished into the deeper woods, leaving only questions in its wake. Castletown blazed with 1,000 lanterns, their warm light spilling across cobblestone streets like liquid gold. Paper streamers in royal blue and silver danced between buildings, while the scent of honey-glazed apples and fresh-baked festival bread wafted from crowded market stalls. In the central square, where the great fountain sparkled, a group of musicians filled the air with melodies played on wind instruments carved from ancient cedar. Their songs spoke of twilight's beauty, of the precious moments between night and day. Goron merchants had rolled massive grills into the plaza. The sizzle and pop of grilled rock roast, drawing curious Hylians who'd never dared sample such fare. Near the castle gates, Zora artisans demonstrated their mastery of water magic, crafting ephemeral sculptures that caught the lantern light and transformed it into rainbow cascades. Children darted between market stalls with masks painted to resemble legendary creatures, while their parents haggled over festival treats and trinkets. Princess Zelda moved among her people, resplendent in a gown that shifted between deep blue and twilight purple. At her approach, Rito warriors bowed with wings swept wide. Goron elders offered respectful nods, and Zora diplomats pressed webbed hands to their hearts, an elegant salute. This festival, marking the ancient accord with the Twilight Realm, had become a symbol of the unity she'd worked so hard to forge. As evening deepened, lamplighters moved through the streets with their long poles, igniting higher lanterns that cast their glow across the festivities. Yet, something about the encroaching darkness felt different. The silver aura that had haunted recent nights seemed stronger, more purposeful, as if waiting for its moment. In the castle gardens, where luminous night-blooming flowers opened their petals to the stars, ancient stones hummed with an energy that set the royal guard's teeth on edge. The change came without warning. Every lantern in Castletown extinguished simultaneously, as if a great breath of wind had blown them out. In the sudden darkness, the strange silver light that had plagued the kingdom's nights grew blindingly bright, coalescing in the central square like liquid starlight. From this radiance stepped a figure that seemed crafted from shadow and moonbeams. Ezalor stood easily 7 feet tall, his form draped in robes that rippled like dark water, trimmed with patterns that shifted and moved of their own accord. His face was a study in ethereal beauty and terrible power. High cheekbones, eyes that shone with an inner light, and hair that floated as if suspended in water. When he spoke, his voice resonated with harmonics that made the very stones of Castletown vibrate in sympathy. Children of the light, he proclaimed, arms spread wide. Your time of ignorant peace ends. The moonlit king stirs in his ancient prison, and soon he shall walk among you again. Your seals weaken, your barriers fade, and your petty accords will crumble like autumn leaves. Princess Zelda stepped forward, her hand raised. Sacred light blazed from the Triforce mark on her skin, pushing back the silver radiance. You speak of things long sealed away, she declared, her voice carrying through the square. This realm stands united, but Ezalor's laughter cut through her words like a knife through silk. The patterns on his robes writhed faster, forming shapes of ancient battles and forgotten crowns. The silver light pulsed, and Zelda staggered, her power flickering. As guards rushed forward and chaos erupted in the square, Zelda caught Link's eye across the crowd. She pressed something into his hand, a scrap of parchment, before collapsing. Her whispered words barely reached his ears. find the shroud of echoes, or all is lost. It lies scattered in sacred places where light and shadow meet. Deep beneath Hyrule Castle, past weathered stone steps and forgotten corridors, Link followed the castle's chief scholar through chambers untouched by time. Ancient globes of magical light sputtered to life as they passed, illuminating towering shelves that disappeared into darkness above. The air tasted of dust and preservation magic, thick with the weight of centuries. The scholar gestured to a section where volumes bound in night black leather stood sentinel. The restricted archives, she whispered. These texts speak of things best left forgotten, but perhaps now they must be remembered. Link spent hours among the ancient books, his fingers tracing words written in script so old they seemed to shift on the page. One manuscript, its pages crafted from preserved moonflowers, spoke of the Shroud of Echoes, a relic that could bind the voices of the night itself. Another described spirits that walked in silver light, their powers growing and waning with the phases of the moon. The deeper he delved into the archives, the stranger the texts became. Some books were bound in materials he couldn't identify, their covers adorned with symbols that seemed to watch him as he passed. He found star charts, mapping constellations that no longer existed, and scrolls that documented the migration patterns of spirits through the realms of dreams. Between the pages, he found it, a letter in Zelda's distinctive hand, written in anticipation of darker days. The shroud was divided, she had written, each piece guarded by those who walk the boundaries between light and shadow. Seek first the Sage of Winds, where Rito's wings touch the stars. The prophecies he uncovered spoke of a time when night would claim its crown anew, when the king of moonlit shadows would rise to bend all dreams to his will. Every text warned of the price of failure, a world where reality and illusion would blur, until truth itself became meaningless. As twilight approached, Link discovered a hidden alcove containing the oldest texts yet. These books, written in a language that predated the kingdom itself, told of the first binding of the moonlit king. They spoke of a battle that had raged for 100 nights, of heroes who had sacrificed their very dreams to create the Shroud of Echoes. In the margins, cramped notes warned that the king's power grew strongest when the barriers between dreams and reality grew thin. Just as they were growing thin now. Rito Village spiraled skyward like a stone symphony. Its platforms and bridges swaying gently in winds that never ceased. As Link ascended the wooden stairs, Rito warriors soared overhead, their feathers catching the light like polished bronze. At the village's peak, where the air grew thin and clear, the wind sage awaited. Elder Kali was ancient even by Rito standards. Her once dark feathers faded to the color of storm clouds. She sat in an open-air chamber where wind chimes crafted from ancient metals sang songs of sky and storm. The silver lights trouble the winds, she said without preamble. They carry whispers that should not be. From a chest of carved wood, she withdrew an amulet that seemed to pulse with captured breezes. The Gust amulet, she explained, placing it in Link's hands. It holds a fragment of Ferori's divine wind. Master it, and the very air will aid your cause. As if summoned by the amulet's appearance, darkness bloomed in the corners of the chamber. Shadow creatures emerged, twisted things with wings of midnight and eyes of pale fire. Link's sword flashed as he met their attack, but it was the Gust amulet that proved decisive. Acting on instinct, he channeled its power, sending a blast of sacred wind that scattered the shadows like leaves. The battle drew other Rito warriors, their bows ready. But Elder Kali waved them back. She watched intently as Link experimented with his new power, learning to create whirlwinds and ride updrafts. The winds remember you, she observed. They whisper of battles yet to come, when sky and shadow will dance as one. That evening, as Link prepared to depart, Kali shared one final warning. The winds had brought rumors of similar shadow creatures appearing across Hyrule, growing bolder with each passing night. Some had been seen near Death Mountain, but the next piece of the shroud was set to rest. Before Link could question her further, a cold wind swept through the village, extinguishing torches and carrying with it the distant sound of hollow laughter. The time for questions had passed. Now was the time for action. Heat shimmered in waves as Link descended into the heart of Death Mountain. The Goron mine stretched before him, a network of tunnels lit by rivers of molten rock that cast everything in a blood-orange glow. Steam vents erupted at random intervals, their hiss echoing through chambers large enough to swallow Hyrule Castle whole. The first sage, Daruk's descendant, awaited in a forge chamber deep within the mountain. Elder Gorlak's massive frame was etched with luminous patterns that pulsed like cooling magma. "Brother," he rumbled, studying Link with eyes that glowed like embers. "The mountain itself trembles with dark dreams. The shadows you chase have awakened something ancient." As molten rock bubbled in channels around them, Gorlak revealed what the mountains remembered. The moonlit king was not always a creature of shadow, he said, hammering at a piece of metal that gleamed with unusual light. Once, he was a guardian of dreams, protecting the realm where thoughts touch reality. But power corrupted him. He sought to reshape both dreams and reality to his will, until the ancient sages bound him with the shroud. The ember gauntlets took shape under Gornak's hammer. Intricate metalwork that seemed to capture Death Mountain's heart within its patterns. But before Link could claim them, darkness seeped from the walls like oil. The very magma dimmed. Chunks of rock rising to form monstrous shapes, with cores of living fire. Link fought through waves of these creatures, their burning claws leaving trails of light in the darkness. Each time he struck one down, it reformed from the mountain's heat until he realized this was his trial. Only by understanding the gauntlet's power could he prevail. Drawing on their magic, he began to bend the very heat of the chamber, turning the monster's fiery essence against them until they crumbled to ash. The flames acknowledge you, Gornak nodded, as Link finally claimed the gauntlets. But beware. The Moonlit King's power grows with each passing night. Even now, his influence spreads through dreams, turning them to nightmare. The luminous stones of Zora's domain cast rippling patterns across curved architecture that mimicked frozen waves. Princess Ruto, descendant of sages, led Link through hidden passages beneath the main structure, where ancient waterways carried them deeper into the earth. Here, the walls were embedded with crystals that sang soft harmonies as water flowed past them. The shroud's power comes with a price, Ruto warned, as they swam through chambers untouched for centuries. Schools of spirit fish, their bodies transparent save for glowing cores, darted around them. It was woven from the essence of dreams themselves. Those who wear it risk losing themselves in the space between reality and illusion. In a grotto lined with memories captured in crystal, Ruto revealed the peril of truth, a perfectly spherical gem that seemed to contain an entire ocean within its depths. But as Link reached for it, the water around them grew dark. The spirit fish scattered as something ancient stirred. visions assaulted Link's mind, glimpses of possible futures. He saw Hyrule Castle, wrapped in chains of moonlight, its people walking like puppets through silver-lit streets. He saw forests where trees grew in impossible shapes, their branches weaving dreams that drove travelers mad. He saw the moonlit king, seated on a throne of twisted reality, his crown forged from broken dreams. The peril pulsed, dispelling the visions. What you saw were echoes of what may come, Ruto said softly. The peril of truth will help you pierce illusions. But remember, even truth itself can be a double-edged sword. The Moonlit King's greatest power lies not in his ability to create illusions, but in his skill at weaving truth and lies together until they become indistinguishable. As if to emphasize her warning, the crystal's song changed to a discordant melody. Through the waters above, the strange silver light that haunted Hyrule's night shone with increasing strength, transforming the domain's peaceful pools into mirrors of unsettling possibility. Link crested Hyrule's fields, final hill, to find Castle Town transformed into a battlefield. Shadow creatures prowled the streets, while silver light writhed around the castle's towers like serpents. Royal guards fought desperately at the gates, their weapons passing harmlessly through enemies made of darkness and dream. Drawing on his new powers, Link carved a path through the chaos. The gust amulet scattered lighter shadows like leaves, while the ember gauntlets seared through darker manifestations. The pearl of truth revealed which threats were real and which were mere illusion. Though in this nightmare landscape, the distinction grew increasingly meaningless. Then Ezalor appeared, descending from the silver-lit sky like a falling star. His robes rippled with scenes of conquest and corruption, and his smile held all the warmth of a midnight winter. The hero returns, he mocked, still playing at being a savior. their jewel transformed the castle courtyard. Link's newfound powers clashed against Ezalor's illusions, reality warping around them with each exchange. But even as Link pressed his advantage, Ezalor's laughter grew wilder. The sorcerer's form began to dissolve, but not before he cast something at Link's feet. A fragment of cloth that hummed with familiar power. A piece of the shroud itself, torn and pulsing with trapped dreams. In her chambers, Princess Zelda finally stirred from her enchanted sleep. Her eyes held the weight of ancient memories as she examined the shroud fragment. "Now, you understand what we face," she said. "The Moonlit King was once the guardian of the dream realm, the space between sleeping and waking, where all possibilities dwell. She revealed an ancient tapestry hidden behind royal banners. It depicted a being of starlight and shadow, wearing a crown that seemed to contain entire worlds. He maintained the balance between reality and dreams until he grew convinced that the waking world was flawed. He sought to remake everything in the image of dreams, beautiful, terrible, and utterly without constraint. Like pieces of a puzzle, the story fell into place. The shroud of echoes had been woven from dream stuff itself, designed to bind the Moonlit King by his own power. But its creators knew such power could corrupt, so they split it into fragments, entrusting each to a different guardian lineage. "The pieces you've gathered must be unified," Zelda declared. "But doing so requires entering the space between dreams and reality. The Moonlit King's domain. Few minds can withstand that realm unchanged." She met Link's gaze. "Are you prepared to risk not just your life, but your very sense of self?" Link's answer came without hesitation, his hand moving to the sword at his side. Some battles couldn't be won without sacrifice, and Hyrule's need outweighed any personal cost. of echoing whispers lay beneath the Arbiter's grounds, its entrance revealed only by starlight reflected in ancient mirrors. Link descended stone steps that spiraled impossibly deep. Where the air grew thick with the weight of trapped memories. Here, reality felt tissue thin, dreams seeping through worn places in the world's fabric. The first chamber opened into a vast cathedral space where pillars of black glass rose into darkness. Each footstep echoed not with sound, but with fragments of memory. Children's laughter, clash of swords, screams of the fallen. The peril of truth pulsed at Link's belt, revealing glimpses of battles fought long ago when the temple had first been sealed. "Welcome, hero of time," whispered voices from every direction. "Face what was, what is, and what could have been." The temple's trials began without warning. In one chamber, Link found himself back in Kokiri Forest, watching younger versions of himself fail to save friends from darkness. His ember gauntlets flared as he fought through these phantoms, each victory burning away old regrets. Another room showed alternative paths, futures where he'd chosen differently, worlds where Ganon had won, timelines where he'd never answered destiny's call. Through halls of liquid shadow, Link battled manifestations of doubt and fear. The Gust amulet scattered illusions that tried to trap him in endless loops of memory, while the peril of truth helped him distinguish real dangers. Each challenge peeled away another layer of reality, bringing him closer to the dream space where the shroud pieces awaited. In the deepest chamber, where walls rippled like disturbed water, Link faced his greatest trial. Mirrors lined the room, but each reflected a different version of himself. The child who first drew the Master Sword, the hero who sailed vast seas, the warrior who became a wolf, all watching, all judging. Here hung the remaining pieces of the shroud, suspended in the air that tasted of stardust and forgotten songs. As Link reached for them, the reflections moved. Each mirror self stepped forward, testing his resolve with blade and courage. Only by accepting these versions of himself, his triumphs and failures, his certainties and doubt, could he prove worthy of the shroud's power. The pieces resonated with the fragment he carried, pulling together like moths drawn to flame. But even as the shroud began to unite, a familiar laugh echoed through the temple. Silver light blazed between the mirrors, and Ezzelor's voice rang with triumph. Finally, the seal weakens, the moonlit king stirs, and all dreams shall soon answer to his crown. Reality shattered like glass as the moonlit king emerged from his ancient prison. His form was catastrophically beautiful, a being of pure starlight and shadow, wearing a crown that contained infinite dreams. The temple chamber extended impossibly, its walls becoming windows into 1,000 different realities, each rippling with untold possibilities. The waking world is a cage. The moonlit king's voice resonated through every version of reality at once. I shall remake it in dream's image. With a gesture, he began weaving the multiple realities together, merging dream and nightmare into a tapestry of chaos. Link stood firm, the restored shrouds of echoes flowing around his shoulders like liquid moonlight. The pearl of truth blazed at his belt, cutting through the worst of the illusions, while his ember gauntlets burned with sacred fire. Each power he gathered represented a different facet of reality. Wind's freedom, fire's truth, water's fluidity. The battle transcended physical combat. Link leaped between realities, using the gust amulet to ride currents of possibility. The moonlit king countered by summoning shadows from every timeline. Dark reflections of heroes and villains who had never been. Yet, where these phantoms struck, Link's ember gauntlets burned away their false existence, reducing them to dream stuff. Ezzelor appeared amid the chaos, his form wavering between shadow and light. "My king," he cried, "I see now what you truly are. Not a liberator, destroyer of all that makes reality precious. His sacrifice shattered the crown of dreams, creating an opening in the moonlit king's defenses. Link seized the moment. A shroud of echoes responded to his pure heart. Its power, amplified by each artifact he'd gathered. Wind and fire spiraled around him as he unleashed a sealing strike that bound not just the moonlit king's form, but his very essence. Reality snapped back into focus. Dreams once again properly contained behind the veil of sleep. As the temple chamber returned to its normal dimensions, Ezzelor faded like morning mist, his final smile one of peace. The shroud of echoes settled around Link's shoulders, no longer a prison of darkness, but a reminder that dreams and reality each had their proper place. Morning light spilled across Hyrule's castle's highest tower as Zelda sealed the Shroud of Echoes in its new resting place. Ancient wards glowed briefly, then faded into the vault's stone walls. Dreams would remain dreams, at least for now. Link stood at the castle ramparts, watching the kingdom awaken to another peaceful dawn. In the distance, Death Mountain's peak caught the sunrise, while windmills turned lazily in Rito Village. Yet, even as normalcy returned, the pearl of truth at his belt pulsed once, a reminder that between reality and dreams, new adventures awaited. His hand rested briefly on the Master Sword, ready for what was to come next. Morning light spilled over Hyrule, casting long shadows across a land still bearing scars of battles long past. A century had passed since Calamity Ganon's defeat, and the kingdom flourished under Queen Zelda. The ancient towers stood dormant, their blue lights extinguished. Peace had settled like morning dew upon the realm. Link traveled alone, no longer bound by royal appointment. He wandered the borders of civilization, guardian to those who needed protection but sought no recognition. His legendary blade rested in its sacred grove. There had been no need for the sword that seals the darkness for many seasons. The gentle Hylian breeze carried the scent of wild herbs and distant wood smoke as he made camp beneath the stars, watching the moons rise over distant mountains. In the dense forests of Faron, Link first noticed something amiss. Ancient stones phased like spectral echoes, appearing solid one moment and translucent the next. The air shimmered with an energy he hadn't felt since his confrontation with the calamity. Something beyond the physical realm stirred. Even the mischievous Koroks had gone silent, their playful rustling absent from the underbush. Wildlife behaved strangely too. Birds flew in geometric patterns. Deer stood motionless for hours, and insects emitted an eerie luminescence at twilight. He tracked the disturbances to their strongest point, a weathered shrine half submerged in wild foliage. Its surface rippled like disturbed water, though solid to the touch. As his fingers traced the faded Sheikah symbols, the shrine's entrance slid open with a teeth-rattling groan. Inside of the familiar blue glow, pulsing white light emanated from within, casting strange shadows that moved independently of their sources. Link descended cautiously, one hand on his sword, each step measured and silent. The shrine's interior differed dramatically from those he'd conquered in his youth. The chamber, this chamber, seemed caught between states. Parts resembled ancient Sheikah technology, while others appeared ethereal, constructed of light and geometric patterns that defied conventional understanding. The floor beneath his boots alternated between solid stone and translucent energy, revealing glimpses of an endless void below. Pillars of light intersected with columns of ancient stone, neither fully material nor entirely ephemeral. The silent realm, he whispered. Memories memories surfacing from legends past through incarnations. Images from lives he had lived before flashed in his mind. Trials of spirit, challenges of worthiness, tests set by the goddess herself. A piercing wail shattered the stillness, vibrating the very air around him. From the chamber's center, reality tore open like parchment in a flame. Through this wound in the world stepped a towering figure, a guardian of the silent realm. Its form humanoid but composed of luminescent energy. Its once pristine armor, now corrupted with veins of malevolent crimson that pulsed in irregular rhythm. The guardian collapsed to one knee, light pulsing weakly, its movements jerky and pained. "Traveler," it spoke, voice resonating like crystal struck by metal, layered with harmonics impossible for mortal vocal cords. "I am Sentinel, Keeper of the Eastern Gate. The veil thins. The worlds bleed together." The words seemed to bypass Link's ears, materializing directly in his mind. Link drew his sword in a swift practice motion, the well-worn blade catching the ethereal light as he assumed a defensive stance. But the fallen guardian made no move to attack, instead raising an open palm in a universal gesture of peace. "I pose no threat," Sentinel continued, its form flickering between solid and transparent. "Unlike my brethren, I resist the corruption, but it claims me slowly. The guardian's arm flickered, temporarily revealing a skeletal structure of pure light beneath its armored exterior. The ancient pack fractures. Both realms face annihilation unless the seals are restored. Time grows short. The guardian extended a crystalline fragment that seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. This contains knowledge you require. The Silent Realm was never meant to be merely a test of courage. It serves a greater purpose in maintaining Hyrule's balance. As Link hesitantly touched the crystal, images flooded his mind. 4 temples, 4 seals holding back catastrophic convergence, and glimpses of a shadowy organization working to accelerate the collapse. Link had long ago learned that destiny rarely knocked politely at one's door. Sometimes it crashed through, leaving him no choice but to follow its path. With reluctance shadowing his features, he extended his hand to the fallen guardian, establishing a connection that transcended physical touch, a bond of shared purpose that hummed with ancient magic. The first seal lies within the forest, Sentinel said, strength returning to its resonant voice. Others seek to accelerate the convergence for their own power. They do not understand the consequences of their actions. The great Deku of Korok Forest greeted Link with concerned creaking of ancient branches as Sentinel glided behind like a luminous phantom. The forest guardian's massive wooden face contorted with worry. Small nesting birds taking flight from the sudden movement. I sense an echo of the divine, the ancient tree rumbled. A visitor from the Silent Realm walks among us. Troubling times must be upon us once more. The tiny Koroks peered from hiding places, leaf masks quivering with equal parts fear and curiosity. The sight of Sentinel's otherworldly form. Link explained their purpose: to restore the first seal housed within the forest temple. His gestures conveyed what words could not, painting a picture of worlds colliding, of balance disturbed, of chaos waiting to consume everything it left unchecked. The temple lies in the heart of the Lost Woods, beyond even where my roots reach, the Deku tree side. A shower of golden pollen descending with his words. But beware, the boundary between realms thins there more than anywhere. Time and space fold upon themselves like pages of a forgotten book. Many have entered seeking the temple in recent days. Shadows with inverted eyes. None have returned. With a creak of ancient bark, the forest guardian bestowed a blessing of protection. Soft green light, briefly enveloping Link. The Lost Woods twisted reality, even under normal circumstances. Now, with realms bleeding together, navigation became nearly impossible. Phantom trees appeared and vanished between one blink and the next. Pathways doubled back impossibly, creating endless loops in space. Familiar landmarks repeated from impossible angles. Mist formed shapes that mimicked travelers, luring the unwary deeper into the labyrinth. Link relied on Sentinel's perception, the Guardian sensing fluctuations in the veil, separating worlds. Together, they navigated the chaos, Sentinel pointing out pathways that existed in both realms simultaneously. The only safe routes through the distorted forest. The forest temple emerged finally, its stone architecture interwoven with living trees. Massive roots wrapped around ancient columns, and flowers bloomed from cracks in the stone floor, their petals emitting an unnatural luminescence. Inside, corrupted guardians from the silent realm patrolled mindlessly, their movements erratic and threatening. Link and Sentinel moved like shadows between them, utilizing natural cover and timing their movements with practiced precision. They reached the central chamber, where a fragment of the first seal pulsed weakly, its light fluctuating between brilliant blue and faded grey. Sentinel placed spectral hands upon the ancient magic, channeling energy from its own essence. The seal was intentionally weakened, the Guardian observed. This was no natural deterioration. The damage bears the mark of mortal interference, guided by immortal malice. As Sentinel channeled energy to restore the seal's integrity, Link defended against waves of corrupted forest creatures, twisted reflections of Hyrule's wildlife. Wolfos with crystallized fangs, Deku Babas with luminous petals, and skeletal Stalfos that phased between worlds mid-attack. Each creature bore signs of unnatural merger between realms, their forms unstable and their behaviors erratic. Link fought with the economy of movement that came from centuries of combat experience. Each strike of his blade precise, each dodge calculated to expend minimal energy. When the seal finally stabilized, a concentrated blast of purified energy surged outward, cleansing the temple. Corrupted creatures dissolved into motes of light. The distortion stabilized, reality setting back into proper alignment. The temple stones stopped shifting. The unnatural flora receded to normal appearance. Link's Sheikah slate chimed with an incoming message. Zelda had been monitoring disturbances from across the kingdom, from her lab beneath Hyrule Castle. Her face appeared on the screen, concern evident in her eyes, despite the magical projection's limited resolution. Link. Her voice came through clearly. I've detected the forest temple's restoration. The distortion fields have decreased by 20% across western Hyrule. But something systematic is happening. Her image shifted as she consulted ancient texts spread across her work table. Royal archives mention an ancient Sheikah splinter faction, the Shadow Hand. They believed merging our world with the Silent Realm would grant immortality. I fear they've returned, more dangerous than ever. Darko, the Goron patriarch, guided them through volcanic passages of Death Mountain to the Fire Temple. His rocky brow furrowed with concern. The massive Goron's stone-like skin glowed from within the heat of the mountain, cracks revealing molten core beneath. Strange lights been dancing in the crater, brother, Darko rumbled. Thought it was just volcanic gases at first, but they move with purpose. Form patterns. Ancestral spirits worn of boundaries, weaker than wet paper. Goron thumped his chest. Not afraid of ordinary danger. We Gorons eat danger for breakfast with gravel for dessert. His humor faded quickly. But this ain't natural. Even the hottest flames shouldn't burn blue-white like they've been doing. The fire temple's interior fluctuated between scorching heat and impossible coolness as sections phased between Hyrule and the Silent Realm. Ancient Goron carvings depicting legendary heroes lined walls that occasionally became transparent, revealing corresponding structures in the Silent Realm. Lava flowed in geometrically perfect channels, sometimes upward against gravity, forming patterns that seemed to convey messages in an unknown language. In the temple's heart, they discovered shadow hand cultists performing rituals around the seal fragment. Hooded figures in inverted Sheikah garb chanted in an ancient tongue, channeling dark energy into the weakened seal. Their weapons glowed with an unnatural light, and their movements flowed with inhumane grace. The convergence comes, intoned their leader, face concealed behind an inverted eye mask. Mortality's chains shall be broken. The forbidden knowledge shall be ours at last. Link engaged the cultists in combat, their weapons phasing between worlds, making conventional defense nearly impossible. Meanwhile, Sentinel fought through waves of distortion to reach the seal. As the Guardian made contact with the ancient magic, a revelation flooded through their shared consciousness. The Silent Realm wasn't merely a testing ground, but a necessary counterbalance to Hyrule. A reservoir for excess magical energy that would otherwise destabilize the mortal world. Like a pressure vessel, it contained power too potent to exist, unchecked in physical form. the second seal restored, Link gained the ability to glimpse the silent realm overlaid upon reality, a skill that would prove crucial in the trials ahead. The world appeared double exposed in his vision, physical objects now sharing space with their silent realm counterparts. Most existed as mere outlines, but some objects of great power or significance had full counterparts in both dimensions. Prince Sidon of the Zora greeted Link as an old friend at the entrance to Zora's domain. Though his crimson scales had dulled slightly with age, his trademark enthusiastic grin still flashed despite the gravity of the situation. "Link, my most trusted ally," the Zora Prince exclaimed, clasping Link's shoulder with webbed fingers. "It's been too long since you've graced our waters with your presence." His expression sobered as he noticed Sentinel hovering nearby. "Though I sense your visit isn't merely to reminisce about old adventures." The Zora Royal guided them along elevated walkways of luminescent stone, past elegant architecture that had stood for millennia. Young Zora watched from pools below, whispering excitedly at the sight of the legendary Hylian champion and his strange companion. "The lakes turn mirror-like," Zora Prince explained, sharp teeth flashing with concern as they reached a viewing platform overlooking the reservoir. "Reflections show places that aren't there. Our younglings report hearing voices beneath the surface." He demonstrated by tossing a pebble into the water. The stones created ripples, but the reflection showed a crystalline landscape, undisturbed by the stone's passage. "Our historians speak of ancient tests and mirrored realms, but this seems different. The boundaries weren't meant to weaken like this." Below Lake Hylia, the water temple shifted between states. Water flowed in impossible patterns. Horizontal waterfalls, spheres of floating liquid, currents that ran in perfect geometric patterns. Here, Link's newfound perception allowed him to navigate the constantly changing environment, identifying moments when pathways between worlds aligned. By timing their movements to these alignments, they could pass through barriers that appeared solid from one perspective, but permeable from another. The shadow hand's presence had grown stronger, their members more numerous. They had established elaborate ritual sites throughout the temple, channeling energy from captive aquatic creatures, their leader visible through a projection of light above the central chamber, revealed more of their intention through boastful monologue. The goddess selfishly divided what should remain whole, the masked figure proclaimed. The silent realm contains energy that rightfully belongs to all creation. We will harness the silent realm's infinite energy and transcend mortality's prison. The boundaries fall even now. The battle for the Water Temple's seal proved most challenging yet. The Shadow Hand cultists had learned from previous defeats, employing synchronized attacks that forced Link to defend in multiple directions simultaneously. Water itself became a weapon in their hands, shaped into sharp projectiles or crushing waves by their manipulation of the weakening boundaries between worlds. The seal's restoration granted Link another gift: the ability to shift small objects between realms, temporarily removing them from one world and placing them in another. Mastering this skill required precise timing and concentration, but opened up new tactical possibilities. He could now phase his blade partially into the silent realm, allowing it to bypass conventional defenses before re-solidifying for impact. Zelda's research yielded more insights, transmitted through the Shaker slate as they rested after the battle. The first Queen Zelda created the seals with the essence of pure light, she explained. Her image, surrounded by ancient texts. The silent realm was never meant to be separate forever. Periodic, controlled interactions maintained balance between worlds, like breathing. Contraction and expansion in natural rhythm. The Shadow Hand seeks to force complete merger, which would catastrophically destabilize both realms. The Spirit Temple lay hidden in the vast Gerudo desert. Its ancient stone weathered by countless sandstorms. Link and Sentinel arrived as a massive supernatural tempest raged. A physical manifestation of colliding dimensions. Sand particles hung suspended in impossible formations. some grains phasing between normal sand and luminescent crystal. The wind howled with voices that spoke no earthly language. Captain Reiju of Gerudo greeted Link with a warrior's salute. Her golden eyes narrowed against the stinging sand. Her elite guards maintained a perimeter around the temple, their traditional spears augmented with luminous crystals that disrupted the silent realm energies. The ancestor spirits warned of this day, she said, when the veil between worlds would thin and ancient powers would seek rebirth. She regarded Sentinel with cautious respect. We've held back the worst of the incursion, but each day grows more difficult. The temple itself resists our entry. Only one marked by the goddess may pass safely now. Inside, they navigated chambers that defied physical laws, where gravity shifted unpredictably and pathways branched into impossibilities. Some rooms contained multiple versions of themselves, overlaid like transparent pages. Link witnessed echoes of his previous incarnations, walking these very same halls. The hero of time, the hero of winds, countless others who had faced Ganon throughout the ages. Their ghostly forms moved through their own quests, unaware of his presence, yet somehow offering guidance through their remembered actions. The Shadow Hand had established their stronghold here, their most powerful members channeling dark energy into the weakened seal. Ancient Guerdo and Sheikah symbols had been perverted to serve their purpose, reconfigured into patterns that forced accelerated convergence between worlds. Through fragments of ancient text and echoed memories, the truth became clearer. The silent realm contained the excess magic that had been used to create Hyrule. Like pressure in a sealed vessel, this energy needed controlled release to prevent catastrophic failure in both worlds. The Shadow Hand's belief that they could control this power was dangerous hubris. No mortal vessel could contain such energy without being obliterated. With each seal they restored, Link and Sentinel established proper regulated flow between realms rather than complete separation. It wasn't isolation that would save the worlds, but proper balance, controlled interaction that allowed excess energy to disperse harmlessly. As the final temple seal stabilized, Sentinel's corrupted portions began to heal, the Guardian's light burning purer. But their victory was short-lived. A tremendous shockwave knocked them to the ground as the sky above Hyrule Castle split open, a massive tear in reality, visible even from the distant desert. "We're too late," Sentinel intoned. "The final seal has broken. The convergence begins in earnest." Castletown dissolved into chaos as citizens fled the massive convergence point swirling above Hyrule Castle. The sky had split like a wound, revealing the geometric landscapes of the Silent Realm bleeding into Hyrule's reality. Silent Realm guardians poured through the rift, their forms distorting as they entered the physical world. But rather than attacking, they began transforming the landscape. Castle stones phased between material states. Gardens grew crystalline foliage. Water in fountains flowed upward in perfect spirals. Royal guards established evacuation routes, guiding panicked residents toward the relative stability of the plains. The very cobblestones of the streets reorganized themselves into spiraling patterns. Some buildings elongated impossibly, stretching toward the rift like plants seeking sunlight. Others compressed or expanded rhythmically, as if breathing. Citizens who lingered too long near conversion points began to exhibit strange symptoms. Temporary transparency, echo-like movement trails, or voices that resonated with harmonic overtones. Queen Zelda awaited them at the castle gates, ancient bow in her hand, her royal garments exchanged for practical attire reminiscent of her youth. Though silver threaded her golden hair, her eyes remained sharp with the wisdom that had guided Hyrule through a century of peace. The Triforce symbol on her hand pulsed with golden light, responding to the chaos surrounding them. "I sensed your approach," she said, clasping Link's forearm in a warrior's greeting. "The boundary between thought and reality thins as well." She nodded respectfully to Sentinel, recognizing the Guardian's nature without introduction. "The barrier at the sanctum has fully collapsed," she explained, pointing toward the castle's highest tower, where the convergence seemed strongest. "My research suggests the final component needed to restore balance lies within the convergence itself. an artifact created by the first Zelda as a failsafe against exactly this scenario. Link, Sentinel, and Zelda fought through the transforming castle. Reality fractured around them. Doorways led to impossible locations. Rooms contained fragments of Hyrule's past. Link glimpsed echoes of familiar places. A windswept ocean tower, a twilit palace, a floating city in the clouds. As they ascended the central spire, the laws of physics grew increasingly tenuous. Gravity fluctuated unpredictably. They walked on walls and ceilings without falling. Water flowed in rectangular paths through mid-air. And objects aged rapidly, then reverted to new conditions in cyclical patterns. At the heart of the convergence, they confronted the Shadow Hand leader, who removed their mask to reveal features contorted by otherworldly energy. Eyes burning with malevolent purpose. Their skin flickered between flesh and luminous energy. Veins pulsing with power never meant for mortal vessels. Behold true unity, they proclaimed, voice layered with inhuman harmonics as they hovered above the floor. I have given myself to the power beyond. The essence of demise lives again. The ancient evil that had spawned Ganon generations ago had found a new vessel. Not fully reincarnated, but using the Shadow Hand leader to break barriers between worlds. The leader wielded abilities from both realms simultaneously. Physical attacks empowered by Silent Realm energy, creating devastating combinations that threatened to overwhelm Link's defenses. As the battle raged, Link discovered an artifact hovering at the center of the temporal maelstrom. An ocarina crafted of material that existed in both realms, its surface constantly shifting between states. The Ocarina of Realms, Zelda gasped, created by my first incarnation to tune the boundaries. Link seized the instrument, feeling its resonance with both worlds. Knowledge flowed through him. Musical patterns that could manipulate the fabric between worlds. Playing specific melodies allowed him to temporarily strengthen or weaken the boundaries at will. A power he immediately put to strategic use. By selectively merging and separating the realms around them, Link created advantageous battlefield conditions. When the corrupted leader unleashed Silent Realm energy, Link played a sequence that briefly solidified the boundary, rendering the attack harmless. When physical attacks were blocked, he weakened the veil to strike through the unexpected angles. Sentinel recognized the battle could not be won conventionally. The Guardian's luminous form pulsed with newfound clarity, corruption fully purged through their journey's trials. The being of light assessed the cascading energies with the perfect calculation of its divine design and recognized a solution, one requiring the ultimate sacrifice. "I am of both worlds," Sentinel declared. "I was created to maintain boundaries, to test worthiness, to guard against corruption. I contain what should not exist in either realm." The Guardian lunged forward, embracing the corrupted leader. Their forms began to merge, light intermingling with shadow. The Guardian's luminous form enveloped the thrashing leader, absorbing the fragment Demise's essence. For a moment, corruption threatened to overwhelm Sentinel. Veins of malevolence spread across the Guardian's form, but Link played a purification melody on the ocarina, while Zelda channeled her sealing power. Sentinel's light flared blindingly bright, then stabilized, purified but changed forever. The Guardian now contained the corruption, neutralized within its balanced energies. With the immediate threat contained, Link raised the Ocarina of Realms. The first melody, the Song of Separation, created boundaries where chaos had reigned. The second melody, the Harmony of Flow, established regulated conduits between the separated realms. The final melody, the Eternal Balance, set these patterns into self-sustaining rhythms that would maintain equilibrium for generations to come. Zelda added her power, the Triforce mark on her hand blazing with golden light, as she channeled the essence of the goddess into Link's music. Her sealing magic established regulated pathways where the energies could interact harmoniously without risking further convergence. Together, they conducted an orchestra of reality itself, rewriting the fundamental relationship between worlds. The convergence collapsed in upon itself, a tear in the sky healing like a closing wound. Reality snapped back into proper alignment, objects returning to their natural states and locations. The castle gradually returned to its material form, though subtle changes remained as permanent reminders of what had transpired. Seasons turned. In the castle courtyard beneath a crystalline silent tree, Link instructed recruits of the newly formed Guardian Order. The goddess created separation not to divide, but to protect, he explained. The Ocarina of Realms at his side. Our duty is to ensure energy flows in proper balance. Unseen, Sentinel watched from the boundary, transformed by sacrifice into a being essential to maintaining harmony between realms. Queen Zelda shared wisdom from ancient texts. The first Zelda foresaw these cycles when realms naturally draw closer. The Shadow Hand merely accelerated this process into catastrophe. Throughout Hyrule, thin reality areas became sacred sites where rare healing herbs grew and weapons gained unique properties. Link maintained these sites using the Ocarina, sometimes perceiving Sentinel across the diminished barrier. Demise's essence now maintains separation, a fitting prison, the Guardian once communicated. In Castle Town, citizens celebrated the Festival of Realms with masks, performances, reenacting their journey. That evening, atop the castle tower, Link played a melody of gratitude, its notes visibly resonating between dimensions. As he departed, a silvery mask materialized at his feet. Sentinel's gift. Donning it, Link shifted between worlds to find his friend waiting among evolving guardians. "Welcome," Sentinel said, extending a hand of light. "To the realm between realms." Link smiled. His legend had always been one of solitary heroism. This new chapter would be different. A story of balance and connection. In both realms, Link would be remembered not only as Ganon's defeater, but as the guardian of harmony upon which all existence depended.